This is a presentation by myself, Melanie James, and my co-researcher, Julian Kenny, and him robot. Is he present at ANZCA? And if he is, what rights and duties does he have? And I suppose, yeah, hi Julian. Okay. So Julian is in Sydney and he's been attending some sessions at ANZCA every day in what's been called a Telepresence format. And this is a Telepresence Robot. It's produced by a company called Double Robotics. And if you look at the Twitter hashtag for ANZCA2016, I've actually put a link to Double Robotics so you can actually have a look at their site. So although it'd be just great to talk about robots, and isn't Julian fun, and everyone knows he is in real life, so anyone that knows him, that is, I thought we'd better provide a bit of theoretical context around what we're actually doing here. So one of my other research partners, Deborah Wise, is with us. So hi Deb. Deb's been involved in my research in this area for over 12 months. But the theoretical framework we're looking at is really this idea of positioning and the rights and duties around when one is present in real life. One assumes that you have a right to be here and you assume certain positions and duties and rights that come with that positioning. And we're looking at how things are negotiated when one is actually telepresent rather than actually present. So we're looking at it through theoretical frameworks including positioning theory by Haare and Van Langenhove, social presence theory and telepresence theory, and I'll give you a little quick rundown on what all that means. So positioning theory comes out of social psychology. It's been applied to quite a few areas, but Rom Haare and Luc Van Langenhove are the main people behind this. And really its main purpose is about examining what rights and duties people have in regards to the right to say and do certain things in certain situations, and also the right to refrain from doing certain things in certain situations. And also how these rights and duties are negotiated in different situations and how they're negotiated through discourse. It comes from that thinking around discursive psychology, so it's quite different to that whole idea of how your psyche is built through, that kind of organic sort of childhood stuff. It's actually about discursive construction of self. So it's really very interesting stuff if you want to go back to it. We won't go into it in this session, but highly recommend the work of Haare and Van Langenhove. So in positioning theory, the term position refers to the momentary cluster of rights and rights and duties that you have in any particular time. So these actually move from moment to moment. They're very dynamic. And so I have a right to be up here, but if I say something really revolting or really racist or something like that, you might all just march out and remove my right to be here by saying something that's inappropriate, or if I do something like, that you all find totally offensive, you will remove my right to speak in front of an audience by removing yourselves. Okay, so those things can happen from moment to moment. And if Julian becomes offensive, you might all walk out.
Or switch him.
Well, we just switch him
or
off.
we just switch him off. Now, it was very interesting in a session this morning that we attended. Julian became slightly dysfunctional in his telepresence form, and I think his battery was going flat. And he started moving back and forward, and unbeknownst to me, I was sitting next to him, he was actually running over the toes of someone who was sitting behind him, who was becoming quite annoyed, understandably, which obviously isn't what you would do at a conference. So he had lost the right to participate as an audience member because he was being noisy, making that noise, and running over the shoes of someone. So I had to turn him off and remove him from the room. Now normally you wouldn't do that to a conference attendee, physically remove them from the room, but you can imagine if someone was not acting in accordance to the rights and duties that they have to pay attention during a conference presentation, we'd ask you to leave if you were being, obstropolous or horrible or anything else. So
Unintentional.
Unintentional as it was. Well, off you go. So Click. So, to date, positioning theory hasn't actually addressed how these rights and duties are negotiated in this telepresence state. And through a situation where I was unable to travel last year, the university kindly bought me this telepresence robot and sent it to Belgium, and I was able to deliver my keynote address in Belgium using this. So I was the telepresence person in Belgium. My colleague Deborah Wise was my babysitter in Belgium, and I sat in Newcastle fully participating and being mobile and all that kind of stuff. So I've been Julian at another conference, and we did some research related to that. And what I hope to do after the ANZCA conference is ask you to complete a survey about what you think your experiences with Julian was like, and it'd be wonderful if you could participate in that. But anyway, so we've started to do this research, and hence we invited Julian, co-presenter, to attend via telepresence. So that's why he's here. Plus I figured that a lot of you probably hadn't seen this technology. It's only been around for a couple of years, and thought you might be interested in interacting with Julian in this way. So social presence is the other theoretical framework. Social presence consists of one's sense of self and one's perspective of others, and can be viewed as a psychological state in which a user of technology experiences virtual sense of being somewhere with other social actors and receiving a certain amount of social or communication cues. This social presence stuff comes out of information systems research, and I'm actually working with one of our information systems IT researchers, Mark Adam. He does a lot of work in regards to the amount of social presence that's generated through things like eBay and auction sites, and whether people actually feel involved in auctions and in commercial sites. When you go to a website, do you actually feel like you're there and you have some affinity with the site? And so this whole thing of telepresence is quite big in that ICT space. So I'm looking at it from a public relations and digital communication kind of space, but also in this kind of telepresence. Hello, are you there? Good. Sorry I'm talking too much, I'm just trying to get this theoretical stuff out of the way and then we get to the fun stuff. So, interestingly, Edwards and all did a study where they said that when people knew that they were going to be coming out and interacting with someone in a robot form, they were having expectations that their social presence interaction would be lower, that they immediately thought that their experience would be lower than in real life. So we tested that in Belgium. I won't tell you what came out of that because I don't want to, influence what you might say in your survey results. Watch this space though, it's quite interesting. But a recent people are trying to actually define what telepresence is, and at the moment, one of the most recent descriptions is this idea that it's a way of describing a group of high-end technologies that seek to provide dispersed team members with the experience of being assembled in the same place. The main reason these were developed was to assist with telecommuting and work, so that you could dial in. Julian's had a bit of an issue getting through closed doors, and across the way to McMullen in the rain.
As do we all.
But Julian's going to have a chance to talk about some of those challenges. But in a closed office space where you can just wander around your cubicles and stuff, these things actually work quite well. And in the Belgium conference space where it was basically one or two rooms, it worked much more easily in terms of having your own agency than this. So the key sort of things that we wanted to sort of chat to you about was these 2 points. People who take part in a conversation via a robot interface might find themselves in a double position, and this is sort of where Julian is. On one hand, they take a position as a person with rights and duties that come with that, but on the other hand, they might also be positioned as a robot to which other rights and duties might actually apply. We haven't quite figured out what they might be yet, because how do you define a robot? There's a robot that is just programmed to do something, doesn't have any agency, but this is a robot that is representing a person, and it actually exercises through its telepresence agency. So it's kind of a different kind of robot. And part two is part of that duality might be reflected in this idea of how the physical position that the robot itself takes up in the room. Like, does it have a right always to be at the front? Should it be in part there? Should we always put it at the back? Or how the participants in the room engage with this robot? The fact that it can be standing at similar height to me, or it could actually, sounds rude. Can you go down, Julian?
Sure can. I'll kneel before you.
And so we could sit at a table, so at a conference he can actually come and sit at a table and join the discussion. Okay, that's enough, you can go up now. Thank you. Anyway, so you can see that he has this agency to stroll over to someone and come down to the sort of chatting level and exert that agency. So this kind of thing about, and it's up to you whether you ignore him or walk away from him and whether he chases you or what you do with him, but you can do that with a real person as well. So, in other words, there might be instances in which the interface is treated as if it's a person, other instances where it might be treated as a machine without any personhood properties. So, Julian, the last couple of minutes is over to you. You've made some observations in this stage, so why don't you have a chat?
Okay, thanks, Melanie. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yep.
Not yes. Well, basic observations are, whilst you're enabled, you're actually quite limited by the technology. And, in the case of this morning, I wasn't aware of running over anybody's foot. That was a severe malfunction. So you have to blame the robot and not me. I sort of make a bit of distinction there. In spite of the person who came up to me on the first day and said, "Hey, Charles, you're a lot better in this form." Much easier to talk. In terms of interactivity, it's, again, limited. Basically because I have vision and audio when everything's working well, but I don't have that peripheral that allows me a genuine social presence. So whilst I'm looking at you guys in the middle of the hall there, I can't really be aware of anything happening on the side, or if anybody's trying to, somebody in the back is trying to raise their hand. But, if I'm just pointing in the wrong direction, I won't see that because I'm a bit limited. Other things are really, where does the robotic presence end, I guess, and the human interaction take over? Now, whilst I've felt quite, I was saying a bit like a Dalek, I was sort of looking forward, and have to move the whole body to look around. Where people have come up and spoken to me, I've felt that I had more senses and was more myself, and be able to have a as being an iPad on a stick is the network and lunches and things like that. So, yes, it's good. I think it's probably got a good way to go as a communicative technology. But it's certainly, if I'm not
The screen just went blank, Mel.
Finished it. Okay. Okay. So what they've told us to do is wrap it up and take some questions.
Oh, that's not fair.
I'm sorry, I got all the talk, because the theoretical stuff, it takes up too much time, doesn't it? Anyway, okay, so you can take all the questions, Julian.
So, questions?
They're up the back.
Yes, you. I was kind of thinking just from a teacher's perspective, the idea that we're teaching across multiple campuses, and could we perhaps put the robot into the satellite campus, so you kind of with that moving around as opposed to just a face on a screen through video conferencing kind of technology. So then you could approach, but I guess then you'd be disconnected from the live group in front of you because you'd have to be stuck to the computer, so you'd be moving around with them but not moving around with those who are actually in your presence. So yeah, do you see any use of this kind of thing for perhaps distance or teaching, multiple campus satellite kind of teaching?
If you go to the Double Robotics site that I've linked on Twitter, there's actually a whole lot of different stories. So I think it's only limited by your imagination. But I don't really know how it would go as your body double. You know, like if you want like your whole set of clones. I haven't really looked at it like that. But I think in terms of, you know, if you wanted to perhaps educate or have a sense of presence with people that you otherwise couldn't go to because, like, for example, I was in a wheelchair and in a cast for 6 months and couldn't really travel much. Or maybe it was, you know, I needed to travel to an area that was, you know, deemed by my university as too dangerous to travel to. We could send this, and it was sort of the next best thing. You know, so there's those kinds of instances. So I suppose the thing is that what I found, with Julian, is like when the technology is working really well, you don't kind of notice the robot. But like at the moment, he sounds like a Dalek, and that's usually the wireless issues. When you've got really high quality wireless and no problem, you kind of forget the robot's there. But as soon as the tech starts playing up, as soon as the wireless connection starts playing up, you immediately come back to the fact that he's an iPod on a stick, and it disappears. The magic disappears.
It's an interesting analogy for digital communication anyway, in that, you know, you're limited in your channel and you're not really sure how you're being interpreted. It's a bit of an experiment in that time.
Julian, Marion here.
Hi. Marion.
I was just wondering, what is it from your view? What are you seeing? Are you able to manipulate the camera to see us around, or is that what we're talking about, the limitation of the visibility?
So if I'm just looking straight down the center of the room, I can see the whole back row, and I can see the elbow gentleman with the camera over there.
And you can move forward, can't you? Like you could walk up to Marion and see her.
I don't feel like a dancer here. It's that's maximum speed. And it's hard to sort of steer whilst travelling. So there's some way to go in terms of sophistication. But the basic idea is good.
You're close enough, thank you.
We'll just take one more question.
Okay, just on that, the potential for invading personal space would be greater with the robot?
I don't know, Julian, do you feel like you're invading personal space?
Because, you know, when you're in a physical environment, you know the accepted distance with people. But as a robot, you sort of, because you're having trouble judging where you are, it's quite easy to invade.
I'm a bit sort of monosensual at the moment. But when people came up to me and spoke after the first few presentations, they were quite happy with just putting their face right in the iPad as if it was taking a selfie. That's fine. I have it all on camera here, you know. So to that extent, I don't feel that physical presence or invasion. I don't know if others would if my presence was not really, you know, socially endorsed or desired.
I think again it comes back to it's a constant negotiation, you know, as it is in real life.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's a strange technology, and I kind of wondered, you know, like one day we'll go to the ICA conference, for example, and we won't go physically, and we'll be able to hire one of these things, you know, and we'll be able to attend ICA in Japan virtually, you know, through one of these things, and there'll be a whole bank of these things wandering around instead of us going there. And so there'll be like a cluster of these things going, oh, you know, I've just seen so-and-so's paper, what did you think of it, chit-chat, without the cups of tea. You know, will be.
So
Sorry,
will
and
there be a
without
special
Japan.
conference rate?
And without Japan, you know what I mean? Like, so, you know, or there'll be a mix of, you know, a cluster of people like with Julian and myself and yourself and a couple of other robots, and it'll be this mixed thing. And are we going to accept that? And are we, or are we going to say no robots allowed at this conference? You know, or are we saying, and is that saying no robots allowed, or is that saying you're not allowed? If you can only come like this, you know, like for me, like with this huge disability that I had last year, like, and I thought, oh my God, I can't go anywhere.
I said last question, but I've got the chair, so... Has there, both of you should be able to answer this since you're in Europe as a telepresence robot. Did it ever come to the point, as it does with anyone, say, driving a car or whatever, where the technology disappears and you just simply are who you are yourself? In other words, have you got to the point with conversations with people where the robotness disappears and it's just you and the person communicating? And if that's the case, what does that do in terms of your rights and duties? Are you flipping between robotness and you in terms of rights and duties?
Julian, do you want to take that?
Well, that's exactly the point I was driving at, and you know, I've been carried between rooms where I've had conversations. It depends on new people at the far end regarding me as real human presence, and basically looking after my limited technological abilities, and that's when you feel, when I feel that I am present as a fully functional human. The rest of the time, if I'm not, if I'm not really being engaged with, then I'm quite a static presence, and it's difficult to join in conversations as you might as a fully present person. But the social side of it is massive in our interactions, basically.
When I delivered a keynote address in Belgium, and then took questions from the floor, and I was able to sort of talk, talk to people and things like that, and the technology was working very well. I felt I was there, and I've given Skyped in and did keynotes, or not keynotes, but speeches and presentations. It was much better than that. I felt like I was there, and I've written my experiences up as being there. But again, as soon as the wireless or something dropped out, bang! It was like being, cast out of that realm and back into that. I'm a robot.
So we'll just take one more.
Just a very quick one. It was just, the robot as metaphor is. But are you actually a robot or are you a cyborg? Because you're a human machine interface, aren't you? You're not a fully machine.
Well, that's why we're still negotiating that a bit, aren't we? It's like, is he a person? Sorry, I don't know the answer yet. We're still.
So I think this is a really good transition into a possible conference in the future about creating space in the fifth dimension rather than the fifth estate. So thank you all. That's a good way to finish.
Thank you for your interest and thank you for tolerating this. And if you get a survey, I'd really love it if you could help us out.
Thanks, Julian.
Thanks, Julian. Thanks. Thank you for coming to my talk yesterday too, Julian.
I enjoyed it. It was really good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian.
Thank you, guys.
I'm following behind you, Julian.
You might have to go very slowly.
Good.
I think I've lost my power of locomotion.
Oh, really? You've lost your...
Melanie, I've lost my power of locomotion.
You've what?
He's lost his power of locomotion. Is he run out of battery or something?
I don't know. Why have you done that?
It's been happening the whole day.
That's the...
This is what humans have thought to look after the robot.
You have to have a baby.
I'm still pretending to follow Marion. See if you're
Come on, sweetie. You're not
Let's
like,
try it.
come on.
There you go. No, it's good robot.
That's better.
Now you shouldn't drink beer because then you're gonna be driving underneath.
Tell Marion what people setting up.
That's the mistake you started this.
And can you see a cross there who's coming on the end? Peter? Can you see Pete?
Yes, Peter. Yes.
Pete, say right to Julian.
Okay. Oh, can you be my prince, my dear? Let's go.
Hang on. All right, we're going to put you with Marion. I'm just going to go and get a brolly.
Spinning his wheels. Hang
What
on.
do you think? Hang on. Come on, let's just
Okay.
take the prince off.
We've got to protect you from the rain.
God, you're so precious. I would never do that thing if you weren't here.
Thank you.